to another episode of Two Old Men in Chairs. I'm Corrin Strong.
I'm Howard Appel.
And we're going to do another music video here from Adam Calhoun. Now, this is a song that came out in 2019.
Yes. And in a sense, it almost puts it in another era. So much happens.
Yeah, this is a pre-pandemic song, but it certainly hits a lot of hot buttons that are still with us today. And this one you have seen once, and I've seen a number of times. So we're not doing a first time through reaction, but we are going to reflect on some of the issues raised here.
Yeah.
Hillbilly, cracker, nigga, white trash, fucking nigga.
Now right there, within the first 2 seconds, even before the music starts, we got the N-word said twice. I watched a lot of reactions to this, and some black people are plainly shocked to hear the word coming out of a white man's mouth. Later on, after they've heard the whole song, they're okay with it.
Yeah.
But there's a shock value to hear that N-word.
Yeah, but it's said casually. You know, it's like like in the normal conversation tone, like there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I'm told there are two versions of the N-word. If it ends with the ah sound, that's okay between at least between black people. But if it ends with the sound, that's usually a derogatory term.
But if you put effing in front of it, it doesn't matter.
That's even worse. But it was interesting because I watched an interview with Adam about this song, and he was giving a little bit of his background. He actually went to prison for a couple years, aggravated assault. He had a little anger management issue.
Yeah.
He got in trouble in his 20s a couple times, ended up in prison. And he grew up in Chicago, and
Was his cellmates principally?
His cellmates were principally black.
Mm-hmm.
And he just got used to, using that term. They'd be playing cards, passing time in prison, and that term was free to use between white and black.
It was a good-natured thing. It was just like being upfront and honest.
Yeah. He kind of has a pass on account of his background. You and I can't say that word.
But it is said. It is said in circles. It is said, and it's said in the same casual fashion. Maybe not your circles. It's certainly some.
I don't hear it very often, but it's interesting. Like, also in this introduction, you heard the word cracker, which doesn't carry the weight of the N-word.
Yeah.
Because since white people are somewhat more privileged, they don't take that type of, at least I don't take that type of offense. If someone called me a cracker, I would laugh. But it was funny because some of the black reactors were saying, well, actually we do use the word cracker, among ourselves when talking about white people.
Especially the southern ones, probably, because that's a common term. They're not, doesn't have much meaning here. Yeah.
But it's hard, a word for white people that really carries the same weight as
No, there isn't, because we weren't in slavery and
even honky.
Honky maybe comes close, but it's nowhere near. It's probably the closest we have.
Most people, if you call me a honky, we would laugh.
Yeah, but I think it can be said in the same disparaging fashion, because it's what it can mean.
When I think honky, I think of Richard Pryor. He does that skit where he did like the word association, and he ends up screaming honky at the guy.
But this is interesting because there's a good-natured humorous component of this, and there's a real ugly component using the same vocabulary.
All right, so let's move ahead with the actual song.
What the fuck you rapping for? Cracker ass cracker, got your rebel flag with your camo hat backwards. Stains on your shirt with your fucked up teeth. Piece of shit truck broke down, middle of the street. Old lady bitching in the passenger seat, smoking like a chimney. Kids in the back can't breathe. Got a kid on her lap, smack his ass if he speaks. Always wearing white beaters cause her ass getting beat. Okay, that's white.
So that's your white trash.
Here I want to ask your interpretation. I wasn't quite sure. Is he? I can almost see him. He's putting himself in the role, and he's talking about himself here. because he is, look at his image even. He, at least I suspected that. I mean, he said, look at you, he's.
I think he's just talking about the stereotypes that certain people have about.
I don't think he's
certain types of white people that he's making a distinction between the white trash that he just spoke of, and then the next series of lines are going to be about hillbillies. The way I'm reading it, they're somewhat different. That the hillbillies are more self-reliant, living out in the woods, versus the white trash.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay, see if you don't pick that up.
What about it here really? Redneck motherfucker, never even near a city. Out in the woods, hunting deeper than the wolves. Get that big old buck, bring them home, eat until they fall. Or they out in the shed, on the side drinking shine. Old lady bitchin', better bring your ass inside. It's way past 9, you been drinking all night. Gotta get to work on time, up before the sun rises.
It's still not a flattering image here.
But it's a little more positive.
Yeah, he may have more of a...
But he's also getting up in the morning and going to work.
Yeah.
So, the reason I think that is then when it switches after the chorus and he starts talking about black, he does make a distinction between. Okay, well I saw a difference, but let's go on with the chorus.
White trash, say it back. I don't care, kiss my ass. I don't care, kiss my ass. They call me redneck, white trash, say it back. I don't care, kiss my ass. I don't care, kiss my ass. They call me redneck, white trash, say it back. I don't care, kiss my ass. I don't care, kiss my ass. They call me redneck, white trash, say it back. I don't care, kiss my ass. I don't care, kiss my ass. What the
Now is where he switches gears and he starts talking about the black folks.
You rapping for? Nigga ass nigga, got your sagging pants with your ass hanging out the back, hanging out in front of liquor stores selling crack, just so you could put some 24s on your Cadillac. Baby mama bitchin', you ain't taking care of business. All you do is smoke weed, run around with other bitches, and you can't keep a job cause you in and out of prison. Guess it must be Trump's fault cause you making bad decisions. That's a
Trump's fault. But it's the counterpart, obviously. The urban black, the rural hillbilly. There's only two things we're talking about here, and none of them are very flattering.
And it's funny because though that particular group of lines right there, the black people who see it are like, shit. That's exactly,
Yeah, you got it. But
that's exactly what some, not all.
You got to.
But certain type of black person is doing.
Like I'd like to make it because I'm familiar with Livingston and Allegheny County. Livingston is not what he's talking about here. Allegheny is what he's talking about.
Oh, with the white trash.
Yes.
Okay, but not the black folks.
Oh no, but I'm talking about the white aspect. The black aspect, I'm sure we got the Rochester inner city. Is exactly what he's talking about. But he's saying they're sort of a mirror image of each other. At least that's what I sense so far. And they're not very. Neither one of them.
In fact, he's going to tie it all together in a nice bow here. But first, he's going to talk about the more responsible members of the black community.
Okay, well, let's watch this then.
Niggas, but what about black folk? Raise their kids right every night. Mom and dad are home, hunting for a job, not crying about a privilege, crying out to God, stop the violence where we live in. Fuck it though, you a nigga, and I'm just a cracker. They pin us against each other, sit back and they watch it.
Well, yeah, it's exactly the counterpart of the guy that's drinking but going to work in the morning, the white guy. The black, that's a struggling black couple here that makes sure they're a couple because blacks had that bad rap of being so being single.
Mom and dad are both
mom and dad, and they're trying and everything. But
and
he is saying
they're complaining about privilege.
Yeah. But what he's saying is they're dragged down by this culture, by this circumstance, just like the whites are. It's a culture of poverty in both cases.
And they're praying, that there won't be violence in their community.
There's so much alike.
So what he's saying is, you have the black people in front of the store selling crack, and then you have the black folks who are trying to make it and be responsible. So he's making a distinction there. But then at the very end, that last line, he said, "Hey, I'm a cracker. You're a black person, and we're the same, and they're dividing us.
Yeah,
they're intentionally trying to divide us." And I didn't hear that line the first few times.
But I think this is about commonalities, the good and the bad. We've all got these. The two cultures have these commonalities, and these are the poor cultures of each race.
Yeah,
And I
but his
said,
point is we have more in common than what separates us. That we're being
yeah,
separated kind of
yeah.
artificially.
Well, and we're all struggling. That's part of life. And he's talking about these struggles, and maybe we don't show so well.
I'm going to take that back about 10 seconds so we can go
Okay.
through this line and how he talks about we're being separated, and
Yeah.
then he finishes the song.
It's where we live in. Fuck it though. You a nigga, and I'm just a cracker. They pin us against each other. Sit back and they watch it happen. In the hood they selling cracking, killing over shoes and jackets. In the trailer park they fall apart, a bunch of Mac daddies.
So there it goes.
Yeah, it's these hopeless situations, and he's like turning them into poetry. The inner city in West Virginia, where everybody's on some kind of opioid. They're mirror images of each other. They're places of despair.
Yeah, and he was talking about, what did he say, in the trailer parks they're meth addicts.
Yeah.
In the city they're selling crack.
I mean, I don't know if something like this could produce any kind of reconciliation. He's just saying, kind of that's the way it is. So don't think the bad guy on the other side, you're really no better than him, and he's no better than you. We're in the same boat.
I think it's very valuable because it opens up discussion of things that normally is not talked
Yeah.
about on either side.
I mean, life can be shit for anybody of any race, and maybe that's a much stronger point than the racial separations are much more superficial compared to life struggles.
Yeah, but it gets people talking, and as I say, most of the black reactors that I've seen, at first they're like put off and like, how's he getting away with saying what he's saying?
Yeah.
But then when they've listened to the whole song and they realize the underlying message of, hey, we're really in the same boat here, let's not be divided, then they're okay with it, and they're like,
Yeah.
they can't deny.
Well, it's interesting. This holds. I mean, this is now 3 years old, but it still holds and still carries a message. It isn't dated.
Oh
which is,
yeah,
I guess, the mark of any good art.
it kind of shows that he really was out there before Tom McDonald blew up, because Tom didn't really blow up, until 2020, but this guy was already making,
Yeah, social commentary.
very controversial music back then. And of course, they eventually found each other and are working together now. That's our two old white guys' reaction to
Yeah.
a very delicate subject.
Yeah. Well, I had to see this twice. I really didn't get it the first time through. I really had to see it the second time to realize what he was doing.
Yeah, that one line is critical there at the end where he says, "You're an N-word and I'm a cracker." And
Yeah. Although it's a little asymmetrical because, like you said, we don't have that white word that really is analogous to that. The word doesn't exist. Probably because we were never slaves.
it doesn't have the emotional charge.
Right. It's hard. I know he's searching for it, but cracker doesn't cut it, and I don't know what would.
White trash, I guess. And it's funny that a lot of the black reactors that I've seen, they go, we don't use the word white trash. They think that's probably the lowest. That's the closest.
Well, there's
equivalent.
also the term white N-word. That's a term too. Did you ever heard that?
Well, I've heard wigger.
Well, same thing, yeah. Okay, sometimes it's just said.
Those are normally just kids who get involved in the
But
hip hop culture.
But you can't. No. We're not talking about kids that like the blues or like back in the day. No, we're talking about white people that carry all the things that the stereotypical black that we.
I've got to admit, I've never
It
heard
means
that term.
exactly the people he's talking about, the real people here. White ends are people that live horrible. They don't pay their rent. They don't take care of their kids. They do drugs. Okay, it's the white version of the worst of the black culture.
See, I think that's encompassed in the
It's
word.
bad that they don't call them black. They don't call them black crackers. It's part of the prejudice of our society that we call them white ends, but we don't call the bad blacks.
Black crackers?
No, that wouldn't fly. And it does show some
But
of the
I think
inherent racism.
I've never heard that term, but I think the word white trash encompasses most of that.
Yeah.
It's about as low as
Yeah.
you can go.
But I mean, it's a little more of a bite when you use that. But then the only way you get the bite is by using that horrible word.
Yeah, that's why I probably never heard it, because nobody would say it.
Oh, I've heard it. I've heard it used, and it's used explicitly. A white person going from paying the rent, and then finally getting thrown out 2 months, leaving
Right.
the house a mess.
We,
All the things that.
that's white
yeah,
trash, Howard.
Yeah.
That's white trash.
Yeah, yeah, and so we've got.
But
we've
it's
got,
interesting that a lot of black reactors would say, I would never use that term.
Mhm.
Just like a white person would say, I'm not going to use that N-word. I'm starting to think because you live in Allegheny County, you might be white trash. No, I was kidding because
But I mean, we're closer to West Virginia than
I
we
spent
are
a
to
lot
Rochester.
of time in Allegheny County, and I think there's wonderful people living down there.
Oh, they're great people, but they're hillbillies. You know?
Okay.